And so he yelled at me, and I didn't have the nerve to walk out. So I waited a couple of weeks. Next time this guy yells at me, I'm going to walk out. He yelled at me, I didn't walk out. Next time he yelled at me, and finally I summoned the nerve to walk out. The waitress had called in sick that day. This was during rush hour, so the place was full of customers. I went in the back, took off my apron, and I walked out. That was an act of defiance that no one had ever done to my dad. He came home that night and he was furious. And I was laying on my bed, and my dad came to my bedroom and said, "Why did you leave?" And I said, "Dad, I got sick and tired of the way you spoke to me, and I was not going to put up with it anymore." And my father paid me $10 a day plus tips. He balled up the $10. He threw it at me as I lay on my bed. He walked out of my bedroom, and my father and I did not have another conversation for 10 years. And when I say not another conversation, I mean not another conversation. Not even, think it might rain? How about those Dodgers? Hey, look at those Rams. Nothing. And he was easy to avoid because he worked long hours. I knew what the hours were. And I just avoided him. Not that we had a big house or anything, but I just avoided him. So now I graduate from high school. I go to college in New England. I go to law school in the Midwest. I end up working in Ohio. And I would come home, of course, to visit my mother, but I would just make sure my dad was never around when I was there. We did not speak to each other for 10 years. Now I'm 25 years old. I've just graduated from law school. I just passed the California bar, passed the Ohio bar. I should be living large. I'm working for a law firm that's now called Squire, Patton & Law. It's one of the biggest law firms in America. And I'm making the equivalent of around $150,000, and I'm just 25 years old. I should be living large, but I can't sleep. And I knew it had to do with my dad. Not that I ever thought we'd be friends or anything, but I knew it was about my father. And so I called my secretary, and I said, "Cancel all my appointments. I'm flying to LA. I'll be back in a few days." And I did not tell my parents I was coming because I did not want my dad to prepare for this meeting. I figured it'd be 5-10 minutes, in the door, out the door. So I get to LAX. I take a cab right from LAX to the restaurant. He closed at 2:30, I knew that. I got there at 1:30. My dad was shocked to see me. I had my luggage, and he said, "Should I put your luggage in the back?" I said, "No, Dad, I'm only gonna be here for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell him what an SOB I thought he was. I figured he'd tell me I was an ungrateful son. Maybe I'd be able to sleep." So he said, "Wait till we close," and I sat there for an hour, and I said, "Now, Larry, calm down. Don't tell him everything he's ever done. Don't tell him every spanking he ever gave you. Don't tell him everything. Just cliff notes, a few highlights, 5 minutes. Call him an SOB. He'll probably call you an ungrateful son. Then you'll be able to sleep." So I waited for a whole hour, calmed myself down. My dad sat on the stool right next to me. And I teed off on him. I spoke for 20 minutes non-stop. You guys know how I can go. I told him everything he'd ever done. I told him about the time he spanked me in front of my best friend Carl. It was embarrassing. The time he spanked me in front of my cousin Elaine, who was visiting from Cleveland. It was embarrassing. Every whipping, every spanking, everything he'd ever said to me, everything he'd ever done to me, I told him, and I was spent. I was out of ammo after 20 minutes. And he looked up and he said, "Is that it? You didn't speak to me for 10 years because of that?" And I said, "Yes." And for the first time, I saw my father cry. I did not think the man had the ability to cry. And he said, "Larry, let me tell you about my father." Now let me pause a little. I knew nothing about my dad's life. I didn't give a damn. I didn't like him. I mean, I knew he didn't have any brothers and sisters because we never got any Christmas presents. And I met his mom one time. That was it. I didn't know anything about his life. It never occurred to me to ask because I didn't care. I didn't like him. For the next 8 hours, the two of us sat on a stool, and my father told me about his life. He said, "Larry, you know your last name, Elder?" I said, "Yes." He said, "That's not my father's name." I said, "What? Who's your father's name? Who's your father?" He said, "I have no idea, never met him." "You never met your father?" "No." "Who's Elder?" "Elder is the man who was in my life the longest, maybe about 4 or 5 years. He was an alcoholic. He rarely worked. And when he did, he brought the money home to my mom. She would hold it because he would drink it away. Come Tuesday or Wednesday, he'd want it. She would give it to him. He'd beat the crap out of her. If I jumped in, he'd beat the crap out of me. How long was he in your life? 4 years. He said, my mother, he said, could neither read nor write. By the way, my dad's birthday is May 25, 1915. And my dad said she couldn't even write down his birthday. He knew the year. So when he enrolled in kindergarten, the teacher said, what's your birthday? He said, I don't know. She wrote down May 25, which was her birthday. So I told my dad he had a 1 in 365 chance of it being right. My dad said, I came home at the age of 13, and I started quarreling with my mom's then boyfriend. She sided with the boyfriend and threw me out of the house, never to return. Athens, Georgia, 13-year-old black boy, Jim Crow South at the beginning of the Great Depression. I defy very many of you to find somebody who had a hand dealt like that. And I said, well, Dad, what did you do? For the next 8 hours, he explained his life to me. I walked down the dirt road, knocked on the door, picked up trash, cleaned up the barn. I became a shoe shine boy, became a hotel valet. And then he got a job as a Pullman porter. They were the largest private employers of blacks in those days. And he was able to travel all around the country. This little black boy from Athens, Georgia was able to go all around the country. And he came out to California one time on a run. And it was sunny, people seemed to be more friendly, and he could walk in the front door of a restaurant and get served, and that blew him away. Because he always had crackers with him and cans of tuna, because he said you never knew if you were going to be able to get a meal in the South. And he made a mental note, maybe someday I'll relocate to Los Angeles. Pearl Harbor. My dad joined the Marines. I said, Dad, why the Marines? He said, 2 reasons. You know what I'm going to say? They go where the action is, and I love those uniforms. My dad was stationed on the island of Guam. He was in charge of cooking for the colored soldiers. He was a staff sergeant. War's over, goes back to Chattanooga where he met and married my mom to get him a job as a cook. Walks around, 3, 4 restaurants, to his face, we don't hire niggers. My dad goes to the unemployment office. Lady says, you went to the wrong door. My dad goes out to the hall, sees colored only, goes to that door to the very same lady who sent him out. She just wanted him to know what the rules were. My dad came home to my mom and said, this is BS. I'm going to LA, they'll give me a job as a cook, I'll send for you. Comes out to LA, walks around. I'm sorry, you don't have any references. Where are your references? We need references. My dad said, I need references to make ham and eggs? Unemployment office, this time just one door. Lady says, I have nothing. My dad said, what time do you open? She says, 9. What time do you close? She says, 5. My dad sat in a chair for one day, 9 to 5. Next day, half day, she calls him up. I have something, I don't know whether or not you're going to want it. My dad said, of course I'm going to want it. I'm starting a family. What is it? She says, it's a job cleaning toilets at Nabisco brand bread. My dad did that for 10 years. Took a second job cleaning toilets at another bread company called Barbara Ann Bread for 10 years. Cooked for a family on the weekend. Went to night school 2 or 3 nights a week to get his GED. That's why the man was cranky. He wasn't sleeping. 15 minutes here. Half hour here, maybe an hour here, maybe 2 hours here. If I don't get at least 4 or 5 hours, you don't want to be around me. The man never slept. That's why he was so cranky. You sleep like that and you walk into a household with 3 rambunctious boys, what kind of mood are you going to be in? So, as we're speaking, the man is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and Larry was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and now I'm crying. And I said, Dad, please forgive me. And my dad said, there's nothing to forgive, you just didn't know, but follow the advice I've always given you and your brothers. Hard work wins.